Call this meeting to order. A regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, February 19th at 7 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is President's Report. Because we have accommodations tonight from the police department, we can waive that and pay more attention to that section. So we then can go to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports, starting with committee chairs with Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works will meet in this room on Wednesday, March 6th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet on Monday, March 18th at 6 p.m.
Okay. Trustee Hudson.
Public Safety will meet Monday, March 4th at 6 p.m. in this room.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports they'd like to bring forward? Trustee Jan Miller.
Good evening. I'd like to invite everyone here tonight and online, if it's working, to the Germantown Canine Chili Cook-Off sponsored by Bubs. And it will be this coming Sunday, February 25th from 2 to 5 p.m. And there will be Judges Awards and People's Awards for the chili. And it's only $10 per person or $25 per family. And all proceeds benefit our canines at the Germantown Police Department. There will also be opportunities for basket raffles and 50-50 and merchandise. So get your savings and donate to the Canine Fund. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that forward. Does there anyone else have anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Trustee Pieper.
I just want to say that there was a recent article in the Business Journal regarding some housing complexes north of Donges Bay and Fond du Lac Road. And I want to say how misleading that article was, how nothing has been approved. That was just a plan that was brought forth to the Planning Commission. It was not approved. Nothing is going forward with it. I know a lot of uproar has come from it. It was the first I've even seen of it from that article, and just want to confirm to the public that is just something that was proposed to the Planning Commission, and the article was kind of misleading.
Thank you. Any announcements, other announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports to be brought forward? Right. If there's nothing else, then we can get to the accommodations. So let's bring forth our Chief of Police, Mike Snow, to present the Police Department accommodations for tonight. Mike.
Thank you very much.
Turn it on.
I'm gonna get that down one of these days. I have a number of accommodations to present tonight. I will invite the officers. This stems from 3 separate incidents. I'll invite the officers forward as we get to those different commendations. I thank the family and friends of our officers who came to watch this very special presentation tonight. Thank you to all our officers who are also in attendance and took the time to be here tonight. The first commendation is for our school resource officer, Tony Olson. This incident was brought to my attention by Lieutenant Penny Schmidt from an incident that occurred May 5th, 2023. Officer Olson, if you can stand up here. Thank you, so everybody can look at you. On Friday, May 5th, 2023, School Resource Officer Tony Olson completed training and was traveling home. While en route, SRO Olson witnessed a serious motor vehicle crash. The vehicle involved in the crash rolled several times. One of the occupants was injured and the other died because of his injuries. After witnessing the crash, SRO Olson stopped, exited her vehicle, and rendered aid to the victims. She initially made contact with a male passenger who was conscious with significant facial injuries. She saw the driver's seat was unoccupied and asked the passenger where the driver was. He said over there and pointed to the east. While attempting to locate the driver, Officer Olson asked another assisting motorist to call 911. Officer Olson located the driver about 25 feet from the crash site. She checked for a pulse but could not locate one. She rolled the driver over and noticed several facial injuries. He was not breathing and was determined to be deceased. While others who stopped to assist were rendering aid to the passengers of the vehicle, Officer Olson and another subject looked for identification of the deceased subject, locating a wallet and an ID card. Officer Olson also covered the deceased male with coats and blankets provided by other bystanders. Officer Olson called the law enforcement dispatch center, advising them of their location and status of the occupants. Officer Olson waited for law enforcement and EMS to arrive, spoke with the investigating deputy and state patrol regarding what she observed. Officer Olson later provided a written statement. Pursuant to Germantown Police Department Policy 1014, Officer Olson will be issued the Department Commendation Award. Officer Olson remained calm and professional during a critical incident. Officer Olson showed care and compassion and managed a chaotic scene on the interstate on a Friday at the start of rush hour, staying on scene until investigating agencies arrived, providing necessary information to investigators. Officer Olson did all this while off duty. Officer Olson clearly demonstrated the core values of the Germantown Police Department: compassion, integrity, and courage. Thank you for your efforts, Officer Olson. Next, I would call up Sergeant Matthew Jones, Officer Sean Martin, Officer David Perchalski, retired Officer David Perchalski, Officer Zach Schultz, Officer Stephen Hillman, and Communication Officer Carrie Ross, who could not be here tonight. On Sunday, May 20th, 2023, Germantown Communications received a 911 emergency call for a Germantown resident who was found unconscious and not responsive. Germantown Fire and Rescue was dispatched and personnel from the Germantown Police Department responded. Sergeant Matt Jones and Officer Dave Perchalski were the first to arrive on scene. They had initiated CPR and were assisted by Officer Zach Schultz, Officer Steve Hillman, and Officer Sean Martin. Officer Perchalski is a CPR instructor and responsible for the biannual certification of all officers. He advised that all officers work cooperatively to provide immediate, high-quality CPR. All officers knew their roles and responsibilities and worked as a team to perform life-saving measures. Members of the Germantown Police Department, in cooperation with Germantown Fire and Rescue, were able to resuscitate the victim prior to transporting him to the hospital. All personnel are commended for their actions, skill, and cooperative efforts to provide life-saving measures to a citizen of our community. They have demonstrated the very highest level of service and should be recognized for their actions. As such, and pursuant to Germantown Policy 1014.4, these officers will receive the Department Life-Saving Award. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your actions. Dave would have been in uniform, but we took it when he retired, so he can. And for the last presentation, I would ask Lieutenant Darren Von Berge, Officer Daniel Pavich, Officer Ryan Block, Officer Amani Anjum, Communication Officer Maria Zimmerman, and Communication Officer Kelly Nolan to step forward, please. On Monday, January 8th, 2024, Germantown Communications received a 911 emergency call for a Germantown resident who was found unconscious and not breathing. The caller was calmed by Communication Officer Zimmerman and given CPR instruction by our dispatcher. At the same time, Communications Officer Nolan paged the Germantown Fire Department. This was completed within 2 minutes of the original call. Officer Anjum, Block, Pavich, and Lieutenant Von Berge responded to the scene. Officers confirmed she was unresponsive. The person was moved from the bed to the ground by Officer Anjum and Lieutenant Von Berge, and CPR was continued. Officer Block prepared the AED while Lieutenant Von Berge initiated chest compressions, and Officer Pavich obtained a bag valve mask and began providing breaths. Officer Block applied the AED pads, and a shock was advised and delivered by Officer Block. Naloxone was administered as a precaution, and CPR efforts were continued. Personnel from the Germantown Fire Department arrived on scene shortly after officers' arrival and began life-saving measures. A pulse was verified at some point. Officers assisted with life-saving measures for nearly 6 minutes before those efforts were turned over to the Germantown Fire Department. It was urged several hours later the subject was conscious and breathing on her own. It is believed that the high-quality CPR provided early was a significant reason for the positive outcome of this incident. All personnel are commended for their quick action, skill, and cooperative efforts to provide life-saving measures to a citizen of our community. They have all demonstrated the very highest level of service and should be recognized for their efforts. As such, and pursuant to Germantown Policy 1014.4, these officers and communications officers will receive the Department Life Saving Award. Thank you all for your efforts. Again, thank you all who took the time to come out for this presentation. Thank you to our officers. As we know, we've enjoyed enormous support from this community. And you see here tonight what our department is all about and the efforts that our officers take on a daily basis. We are truly blessed by these officers, these communication officers, and I thank them for all their efforts. Thank you.
Chief, I thank you for bringing it forward and allowing us to witness these accommodations and also allow the public to know what they do, what they've done, how they've interacted with our residents, not only on a regular basis, but in these extreme situations with a positive result. So it's nice to have that public acknowledgement of the hard work you do every day, and we appreciate your service to our community each and every day. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is citizen input. If there's anyone within our audience or joining us via WebEx that would like to participate in citizen input, we would ask that if you're in our audience, that if you could please fill out a slip of paper. It helps the village clerk to get your name and your address correct, and also come to the podium to state what you'd like to say in regards to citizen input. If you are joining us via WebEx, just please let your wishes be known so that the moderator can bring you forward when available. So anyone wishing to come forward for citizen input or public appearance is welcome to do so at this time. Hi. Sure. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ellen Goldtree, and I'm a resident of Germantown. I appreciate your comments regarding the affordable housing, but I still have some comments in regards to it. Okay, so we, the people of Germantown, and I am referring to all the people I've spoken with, do not want workforce affordable housing built in any scale in this village. I have lived here for 14 years, paid my mortgage monthly, improved my property, and raised my children here. I have built equity in my property, and I refuse to see it all be lost so that a developer can deepen their own pockets and ruin this beautiful community. We do not want this village to turn into the likes of Brown Deer with increased crime and declining property values. The developer cares nothing about us, the people who have built a life here. We also do not have capacity at our schools. I attend all the school board meetings, not at the elementary, middle school, or high school levels. I care about my children and their education, just like every other parent in this district. If you want to know how people in Germantown and surrounding areas that attend Germantown schools actually feel, why don't you put it on a voting ballot and let the public decide? This is too big and important to be decided by anyone in this room other than the people that live in this community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
I'm Lynn Shower Bednars and I live on Pawnee Court. This week I spent a lot of time making a lot of phone calls to people in investments because I spent most of my life in my career working with people who high earners, investors, own big businesses. Our system, and this meeting, what I'm saying tonight, I wanted to go to the people that can't be here that are hearing us on the internet to encourage their participation. Our system is a representative democracy. We elect legislators to make policy decisions and laws on our behalf, where the legislators do by open public meetings. The local government must involve citizens, such as public meetings or issues affecting our area. And elected officials, to be effective, must be responsive to the needs and the finances of their constituents so they are adequately represented. And I want to encourage broad citizen participation in the city goals and activities of spending the money that's available to you through our tax dollars. And most all meetings should be open to the public except for maybe a few meetings where they're closed. But when you have closed sessions, that cuts the public opinion out. And I don't think that's right. And local governments that should involve citizen groups, special groups on policy making procedures, and where taxation is concerned. And we have a society that is struggling. I had the opportunity to call Jamie Dimon's office. He is the president of JP Morgan and Chase of the country, the biggest, probably the bank in the world. And we are in a very serious problem economically. And I'm trying to encourage this board to stop spending if it's not necessary, absolutely. Here are the advice from people who are big in this investing. We need to stop borrowing from our future generation. And the policies are going to be unsustainable. And we have to put a limit on our fiscal policies, how we're spending money. And we have top economics say we're heading for a cliff as a nation. And this country is $34 trillion in debt. This is insanity. And Dimon himself said the mistake is to think that everything is okay. It's not okay. And warning even to Wall Street that there is a recession is not out of the future at all. And we have a lot to blame for this. And I got to get my glasses on. But the citizens are this board's first priority, to preserve their well-being so that they can support their families and not live under a burdensome taxation. And I have not been involved in government before much because I have worked hard all my life. I retired a few years back. But I'll tell you what, when you come across with all these projects, we should know what we're paying for everything that you're doing with our money. Before anything is put into effect, we should have the right to know what you're spending it on and approve it or not. And referendums should always refer to the cost of the taxpayer. And So when you're listening to people like Jamie Dimon who are into this, we have to be concerned about what we're spending. And this is a democracy, and I'm encouraging the people who cannot be here tonight to start coming and letting your board know what you'd like them to do and how you feel about things, like what your opinion on the school system here. Our taxpayer dollars can't afford to be educating thousands of extra people either. We just don't have the money. So I'm just saying that this is what should be done. This is what your responsibility is. And the people who are at home, please talk to your legislators and give your opinion and have some input so that you know where your money's going to, because I sure want to know where mine is going to. So thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Good evening. Tom Barney, Old Farm Road, Germantown. My comments are about the development for the proposal of 600 dwelling units on Highway 145. Thank you, Trustee Pieper, for pointing out that the article may be a little bit misleading. Since that was stated, I won't kind of tell you my thoughts specifically on it, but I do ask that before you consider any proposal like that you have your administration talk with the school district so you can fully understand the impact that something like that could have on the school district. I mean, just think if it is truly 600 units, that could be 300 or more school-age students. That's a whole elementary school worth of students in one little condensed area. That could be detrimental to a school district. So please keep that in mind as this project may move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
I don't have a slip. You need to fill one out and provide it to me, please. In the meantime, do you want to see if Steven's available?
Do you want before, or can I give it to you after?
You can give it to us after. That'll be fine. Just state your name and your address for the record for this, and then just fill it out, and you could put it on the back of the dais when you have it filled out.
My name is Lynette Tom, and I live on Maple Road, just north of Dinesville. Lived there over 40 years, moved out there in 76. My concern is with the Holy Hill infrastructure, whatever you have there, and the cars, the semis, all coming into a 6-3 road intersection that already is dangerous. And then you also have the Germantown Industrial Park down Maple Road, where you have the people trying to go down 145 and turn on there. It's a very bad intersection, and I know there's a lot of historical buildings in there, so really not a whole lot can be done in that area. But, and then I did notice in that article that they're looking at putting housing, or one of the places that they want to put housing is in that area, Dinesville. And you're just adding more traffic. Maple Road from that intersection towards the industrial park is always back to back. It's just a whole big, it hits the infrastructure, it hits, I used to be able to get to work in 20 minutes, but me to get to the expressway now takes me just from my house there is 10 minutes. Just fighting with all the traffic and anywhere I go. So if I go up Holy Hill now, I'm still running into the traffic. Go down Maple, running into the traffic. Either that or go through Germantown. So you guys look at the infrastructure, before building all that stuff out there. It's, like I said, I lived out there longer than she's probably been born. Or her, And I mean, I used to ride my horse to Kinnitators, which was on Appleton and Lannon Road. And it's just, I don't mind, things, buildings and stuff like that, but got to restrict at least the acreage in which it's put on. to put 600 units someplace, you gotta be kidding me. You know, so that's my thought, and also bringing out the sewer. I have a perfect well and septic system. I shouldn't want sewer coming up my way. So that's my thoughts, and I'll give you the slip.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming forward and for filling out the slip. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
I am Steve Olson. I turned in my yellow slip in the prior meeting. Just a couple of quick comments. I am a contractor, engineer, cost estimator. I know that building in a high interest, high inflation environment is the worst time to possibly do it. I think that things can change. I think we will have some deflationary events. And I think for big projects, we should wait on that because we're all going to be carrying this debt for a long time. I'm a little upset that Washington County picked the Chicago area consultant to come here and decide what's best for Germantown and Washington County in general. I think anything that comes out of their report needs to be taken with a huge grain of salt. And any justification for why we need this housing, like we need the workers, I don't think that we do. I think that if that's going to be played, that there needs to be a study to show exactly why that the high quality people in Germantown and the nearby area can't fulfill that need. I also think that the condensed housing degrades the overall quality of life for everybody. I don't think we need it here, and I don't think it's justified. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Chairman Walter, I would ask if you would allow me to read comments from Ms. Smythe, who couldn't make it tonight. She asked if I could.
As part of your 3 minutes or in addition?
Oh, well, I don't think either one is going to be 3 minutes. but
Okay.
I'll go
Yep,
through as
that's
fast as
fine.
I can.
Sure.
This is from Melanie Smythe, N140 W17938 Cedar Lane, and this is her direct quotes that I'm just reading. I don't understand why the Plan Commission passed Agenda Item A in new business, the MMSD transfer of land, without having an answer to question of whether there were any costs associated with the transaction. Further, there is apparently no commitment of anything in writing that could be produced of MMSD's intent or what they will or will not allow the village to do with the trails design. This looseness with handling of and attitude to real estate is a concerning attribute of this village administration. Oh, they've seen the drawings was one answer. Is that good enough? Case in point, real estate looseness. All of a sudden, we want to extend TIDs to cover the cost of infrastructure without any financial analysis on what it will do to tax rates. When you collectively look at water and sewer increases, TID 9 effects of debt coming up. By the way, the presentation is misstating the extension of TIDs. In a meeting at the school board finance meeting, the stated times were 1.5 and 2 years for TID 7 and 3 to 4 years for TID 8. Which is it? And for how long does this board wish to continue to starve the school district of revenue in our general fund? Trustee Kaminsky, at the end of the Public Works meeting, you were overheard saying people don't get it about TIDs. We do get it. We want market rate organic growth in the village, not turbocharged by TIDs diversion of revenue that causes cuts to park departments and the library. What happened to we should tap the brakes on development? That was said roughly 18 months ago. Where's the 5-year look at all the dollar increases for taxpayers? I am requesting that as stewards of our finances, of which you swore to represent us in good faith, that a 5-year look be prepared showing the following: the financial plans of TID 9 and all the other active TIDs and how the proposed costs collectively will affect taxpayers. The water rate increases over 5 years, the sewer rate increases over 5 years. This administration has only ever provided information in bits and bits. There has not been a clear look at a 5-year forecast of how these actions will affect our finances and taxes. It is time to do so now. Those are my comments. Okay, so that was 2 minutes. So I can't do Irish accents, but you know, sometime I'll do that for you. And then me, Scott Heffley, W159 N10514 Old Farm Road in Germantown. I have 5 points, go through them quickly. 26 million in extra spending, which was laid out, I believe, at Public Works, above and beyond what was promised in the Richfield IGA. Richfield IGA was passed narrowly, as we all know. People barely voted for it, and now we're saying, oh my gosh, Richfield is developing, we got to throw another 26, maybe 30 million, whatever, at it. Is that really, if that was put out there with the referendum question, it would not have passed. I will guarantee you that. People that are sitting here and watching are not expecting us to spend another $26 million just because, hey, they're over there fixing Rockfield Road that we didn't have the funds for 40 years. Let's do 3,000 feet of our own. Ridiculous. And you know I'm the financial guy. I'm going to complain about spending money, right? New frontage roads and improved public railroad crossings. Did anybody ask you guys to do that? I don't know any resident that said to do that. I can't find one. If you can find one, I'd love to talk to them. We can have coffee. Nobody wants this stuff, guys and gals, okay? You know, we get 10 million of infrastructure from Richfield, according to Chairman Walter. Great, we get 10 million. If we have to spend 30 million to get 10 million, that ain't a great deal. Then we got hosed when we negotiated the IGA with Richfield. They got a great deal, and we got, what did we get? We got nothing. I'm Trustee Pieper. I'm glad you brought up the 580 to 600 unit complex. I was actually here at the Plan Commission. I heard every word. I took notes, all that great stuff. I can tell you Trustee Baum did not like it. Most of the commissioners did not like it. But you know what happened? They were sent back for a rework because we didn't like 2 or 305 unit apartment buildings as part of that complex. Well, I'm concerned about a rework. Hey guys, we only got 400 units. Is that going to be better? 200 units. They will come back and they will ask and ask and ask until you decide that we're not going to do it there. Because I'm telling you, that was one of those parcels that was identified for next gen housing by the county, who's pushing hard to put it in Germantown. You should all know that by now. Last 2 points. Oh, I got time. This is great. Usually I don't. We are well over 100 million in total borrowing in the village as of last year. I don't know what's happened this year. We probably added to it with roughly 28 million in borrowing presented in the capital improvement plan for this year alone, police campus and other stuff. We add in the 26 million in new spending, and I call them wish lists. Hey, we're whipping up a road. Let's rip up our road and fix it too. We don't have money for that. You guys know that. Plus likely borrowing for more roads and all this stuff. We're going to hit very close to our $177 million limit that we have against equalized value. Read it. I've been reading too much. Go read about it. And then you're going to hope that you have an increase in value of the village enough to go to 200 million and 250 million. I mean, where does it end, folks? All right. So I think we should look at not trying to hit our borrowing limit, because Moody's will not be amused at your bond rating system if you start jacking up against that. They will hit you hard. And then you can pay 5 or 6% in muni bond general obligation monies instead of 4.5 that you are. And my firm does this. We underwrite bonds for a living. I don't work in that area, but those guys give me numbers and they're right. The last thing is 30 seconds. Great. TID 9, bond repayments and what's their hit on our property taxes. I believe the 43 million is coming on this year. You guys are going to see an increase in your taxes. We saw the amortization schedule. I mean, it's out there. Go look at it. Are we spending money inside TID 9 or not? I mean, TID 9 has not been presented to the school district or anyone. Are we borrowing money already? And if we are, how much? We need a TID 9 report. It's been asked for and not provided. And why do I ask for that? Because the original cost when it was first presented for the DPW building was $20 to $22 million, and we're at 45 million and counting. So we do a project, which is for everybody, I agree, but how do we have to double everything for wish lists and promises and that? It's going to be a great building, but we're not collecting any tax revenue on that building, right, guys? Because it's our building. So I think we got to be very careful in how much more debt we issue, because everyone here's taxes, including you who live here, not you who don't live here. You who live here, your taxes are going up, and I don't mean by a couple $100. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input? Anybody online? Okay, if there is no one else, then we can go to next item on the agenda, which is consent agenda. Board?
Make a motion to approve.
Sorry.
Point of order.
We had written comments.
That you received?
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes, it goes to all trustees.
Does it get read?
No. It goes to all trustees for their information for the board if it's put in before 4 o'clock.
But it doesn't become public.
It's sent to all trustees for their purpose.
We have a room full of people that got to speak. And so
Yes, and they came here to do so. Yes, absolutely.
you write in, I think I think you better say that in the directions that anything you say will only go to trustees and not be read in public.
According to the agenda, under the item of any member of the body or citizen may attend the meeting virtually through WebEx, it says citizens not wishing to attend the meeting personally or virtually may submit any public comments by sending an email to comments@germantownwisconsin.gov by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting so that it can be provided to the members of the body for their consideration.
Is this room not the whole body?
For the body of the village board.
It's a public meeting. I agree to disagree. I think
That's your
comments-
opinion.
I think comments should be read.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Nyrider.
Or for discussion purposes, item 8G, the fire department interior painting project. I just have questions.
Item,
on-
was it just G or did you have another one?
Just G.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion to approve consent agenda items A through G. No further discussion? I'm sorry, we'll be approving consent agenda items A through F. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Nyrether,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Hetzon,
Aye.
trustee Pieper, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Kaminsky, village president Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Item G from consent agenda, trustee Nyrider.
Can we, and I know Scott's not here, correct? Right. The bids that went out, and there's quite a fluctuation in the two bids. One was the 30,863, the other 52,600. Other than just the painting of the interior offices, corridors, parking bays, is there other things that are included in that price? It would seem it almost have to. It seems like a high price just for painting.
No, that is just painting. It's kind of the last step in a series of improvements that have been done in that building over the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So it is primarily painting, yes. And the fluctuation, it really just depends on when you're getting a hold of contractors and the workload that they have committed. Sometimes, they'll put in a high number and that can move them off of another job.
Okay. That number just seems extremely high to me.
50,000 or the 52?
The 30,000.
It's a pretty significant space that's being
Yeah.
painted. I don't have the square feet in front of me, but
Two coats of paint.
yeah,
I
it's
would gather.
it's a substantial job that covers a large part of the building.
Okay.
You want to make a motion to approve? Otherwise, someone else can if.
I would let somebody else if they want to make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 fire department interior painting project budget of $30,863 as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Nyrether,
No.
trustee Baum, trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Hetzon.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper. No. Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Terry Kaminsky, Dean Walter, president.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is new business, starting with new business item A. Village of Germantown ownership transfer of a 51.6 acre parcel from the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewer District for trail system and open space conversation on tonight's agenda for action. Give us more information, background on this new business item. I'll turn the meeting over to Village Administrator Steve Krecklow.
Thank you. This is an item that has been quite a while in the works. We've been working on this project for a couple of years now, actually, in one form or another. And some of the pieces that provide the foundation for this action include the recreational trail plan that was developed by the Parks and Rec Commission and approved recently by the village board. That includes a proposed Goldendale Trail in the vicinity of Gateway Crossing and the Freistadt District. In addition, you may recall that about 8 or 9 months ago, the village board reviewed and approved a memorandum of cooperation with MMSD that kind of set a framework for these types of property transfers that would take place. The board staff have put a lot of work into getting to this particular point with this specific parcel. The parcel that we are talking about tonight is in the packet. If you look at a couple of the attachments, you can see that it is south of Holy Hill Road and kind of behind the Cornerstone development that is south of Holy Hill Road, and then borders along the railroad tracks. In the adopted recreational trail plan, this area would serve as a trailhead for a Goldendale Trail that would traverse this particular parcel, which is about 50 acres, and then eventually cross Goldendale, continue to the southeast along the railroad tracks, and eventually connect to Maple Road with further connections over to the bike trails, bike paths on Freistadt Road. So it would provide one connection for the village that would help to link up with the population centers in the center and south of the village of Germantown. A couple of key items to emphasize here. There is no cost associated with this transfer. The property was purchased by MMSD as part of their Green Seams program, which is intended to help preserve flood control and reduce runoff in the headwaters of the Milwaukee River and the Menominee River. The Green Seams program is funded out of various state grants. MMSD also does not have a goal of holding these properties, in perpetuity. They purchase them and with the intent of transferring them at no cost to municipalities to use for open green space and areas that ideally are accessible by the public. This particular parcel, much like some of the others, is a very attractive natural area. There, in addition to the wetlands, there are some higher ground areas that have some nice natural features that I think the public would enjoy having access to. The MMSD Commission is also in the process of approving this item. It was approved at the committee level last week and is on their agenda later this week for full approval by the MMSD Commission. There have been some questions about whether or not the proposed plans will be acceptable by MMSD and the DNR. We will have to go through a process like we would with any construction project of submitting, final and detailed plans to the DNR for approval, particularly any plans that are adjacent or in some cases through a wetland area do require DNR approval. We can't get that approval until Number one, we own the land. They won't consider an approval process for land that we don't own. And number two, until we have more detailed plans than the conceptual plans that you've seen tonight in the packet. However, we have presented these conceptual plans both to MMSD staff and to DNR staff to get initial feedback and make sure we were on the right track, and did get very positive feedback from that meeting. One of the DNR staffers involved said that this was exactly the kind of place that he likes to take his kids to show them, how wetlands can be preserved and made into, attractive green spaces that are available to the public. There are also funds that have been budgeted and set aside for the construction of the trail. Several years ago, or I guess a couple of years ago, the village board approved $700,000, and the joint review board also approved $700,000 in funds from TID 7 for the construction of Goldendale Trail. So that money is available to move forward, and Park and Rec staff have been exploring, investigating grant programs that are available for the construction of trails, and we're confident that this project will be eligible for some of those grant programs, and using the $700,000 for matching, we should be able to increase that amount significantly. So, although there is a lot of work to do yet, I think that this is an important first step and a good first step towards, making that component of the recreational trail plan come to fruition with the Goldendale Trail. So with that, be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Trustee Warren?
I think it's a great idea. We can always use more trails in the community, especially if we can get the land for free, basically. That's a win-win in my opinion. The only question I have, Steve, is this a transfer in fee? In other words, does the MMSD have any leverage on that land after this, or can they influence what we do with this land after this transfer?
And the village attorney can expand on this if he feels it'd be helpful, but the limitations on the land really stem from grant programs that were used to acquire the land. So it's really the state and the DNR programs that do have that do place those restrictions. And I think one of the other things that has been clarified through some of these ongoing meetings with MMSD, there's been a misperception, and whether it's been something that they promoted or something that just has been misperceived at the village level, that you can't do anything on these properties. For example, we've made it clear that on this property, as well as some others, that we want to have the option of having an asphalt path and an asphalt parking lot. And we've discussed that both with the DNR grant managers who are familiar with the restrictions from the grant programs, as well as MMSD staff. They said that both of those were possible, were on this particular location, this parcel, even given the grant funding that was used to purchase the properties, with some limitations. We could not build a sports complex on this land, for example. We could not develop it, can build housing or manufacturing or anything like that. It needs to be available for green space. If anything we do does have impacts on wetlands, we may need to add some other wetlands in the vicinity to that area. And I think that's also something that's possible, talking with some of the developers in the area who own wetlands that are adjacent to this. If necessary, we could look at some transfers of wetlands that they own to add to this parcel if there is the event that we would need to disturb some of the existing wetlands. So and we do need to look at in the future each one of these on a case-by-case basis, because the grant funding, MMSD has used different grants over the years to purchase different parcels. So it's important that as we work with MMSD staff that we take that into consideration and present that information to the board. But in this case, it should not be an issue.
Trustee Hudson?
So I'm always suspicious when I hear the cost of something is free. And so we're getting an improved piece of land, right? And we have $700,000 in a TID to build a trail. Is that $700,000 going to cover all of the improvements that we need to make to this piece of land? Or is that an unknown as of this time?
I would say it's unknown for a couple of reasons. That was, the 700,000 was based on an estimate that was put together 2 years ago that looks at the cost of trails per mile. And so it's a rough number that could go up or down depending upon conditions. And it's based upon extending the trail, not the entire 3 miles as envisioned in the plan, but the length of this particular parcel. So that's where I think looking at some additional grant opportunities, try to leverage that $700,000 and turn it into $1.5 or $2 million, I think is something that staff will pursue. The other factor that makes it undetermined at this point is this, based on the size and some of the other features of this parcel. If you look at the conceptual plan, it includes some walking trails, some nature trails through the area. And that may be something that I think after further review by the Parks and Rec Commission and the village board, if that's something that there's some interest in, that also could be paid for out of that $700,000, but that was something that was not envisioned at that time that was budgeted. So it would depend on some additional grant money becoming available.
So the answer to the question is unknown. So, and then my second part of the question is we start building stuff and that's great. And I think, this type of area is personally very attractive to me. I enjoy being outside. I enjoy hiking, but we're adding parkland, and we just took away some of our park and rec department budget. And so we're adding land. So we're also going to add upkeep and upkeep expense. And so if we add one without the other, we're not accomplishing anything here.
I think the biggest concern regarding upkeep expense is the trail itself. As far as the rest of the property, it's not something where there'd be like extensive mowing. The intent is to try to keep it natural. So there would be some, I'm sure emptying garbage cans, that kind of thing. But I think the biggest expense, and it really applies to the whole trail plan, is the maintenance of the trails themselves. And I think that's something that as we move forward with the plan, that we need to take into consideration and think about how we're gonna, what we're gonna do with those during the winter. Are we gonna plow them? Are we gonna, leave them snow covered?
And
how are we gonna maintain?
and I am okay with that. I just want everybody to be of the understanding that there will be some yearly expense with maintaining these 52 acres. Thank you.
Trustee Baum.
So what is the time frame of construction transfer? When will this park be online? When am I gonna start walking through it?
There's no requirements as part of the transfer, that we're not given a timeline that we have to follow. So we can determine the timeline. I think that, and if we look at some of the other development that's taking place along Holy Hill, the Holy Hill area, I would envision that this would be something that would start to come online after there is a road access built going south from Holy Hill to the railroad tracks. That would be the access point for this location. People would be able to, it's now a private drive that's from Holy Hill Storage as part of the Truck Country proposal. It's looking at potentially becoming a public road, and that would provide access to this site. So I think after that is constructed, then this plan would be able to come to fruition. I think the activities for the next year would be doing some additional design and then, looking for grants and other funding sources to, help to provide as many resources as possible for construction.
So more realistically, you're looking at a construction of this in 2025, being completed 2026. New construction, there's not a lot of maintenance during the first year. So really maintenance comes into the factor in end of 26 and into 27. So we need to prepare for budgeting in those cycles for maintenance of this park.
Yes. And actually even those first couple of years, usually in my experience for these types of facilities, there's a warranty on like the vegetation, the plant materials, the things that go up that, so typically those first couple of years, those types of things are covered as a warranty on that.
So before we have to budget it, we got several years before we have to start budgeting for that. Thank you.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I have a couple questions. I agree. I mean, I'm leery of free too. I'm very proactive at saving wetlands. There is no question about that. But my question is, why are we looking at this now? If it has to go to MMSD on Wednesday, what is their meeting about? What are they proposing? And have they even looked at this plan? My understanding, and it could be, maybe I heard it from a urban legend, but MMSD really has a handle or reins on this when they own it, and they're not going to approve necessarily this drawing for a park. And I find it hard to believe, it's my opinion, that a wetland is going to allow asphalt in the park. It's usually a different type, a different type of material that is more friendly. Maybe what is that?
Crushed gravel.
Crushed gravel or really wood chips. That's what I was thinking. Wooden planks and so forth. And who would be paying for, then it would be on us, the Village of Germantown, to pay for all these improvements.
I can, I'll try to.
Try the MMSD Wednesday meeting. What is that for?
I'll try to cover all of the questions that you asked. There's a parallel approval process here. MMSD is considering the same transfer of land that's before the Village of Board. Both parties need to approve it in order for that transfer to be effective. MMSD has made similar transfers of land to other municipalities in southeastern Wisconsin for similar purposes in the past. There hasn't been one in Germantown yet. But if this goes through, it'll be the first here in this community. MMSD is, again, they're not looking to approve our plans, although that we did share them with them, and I believe that the same drawings that are in our packet are in their packet, and they're taking a look at those as well. As I mentioned before, one of the key controlling factor on what we can do and what we couldn't do on the land are the grants. And that's really the DNR. And we did present this information to the grant managers from the DNR and to confirm that they are possible within the restrictions of the grants that are used to purchase this particular parcel. When it comes to who's paying for the trail, the recreational trail, if the Village of Germantown wants to have a recreational trail, the Village of Germantown will have to pay for at least part of it. There are some grants available from the state, some pretty significant dollar amounts that are out there and that we can compete for. But MMSD will not pay for the constructions of trails in Germantown. And then I guess the final question regarding the asphalt and the wetlands, the entire parcel is not wetland. There would be some areas where we probably would have to construct some sort of a plank type of a path through it. And we may want to go with crushed gravel when we get forward with the design. We did want to keep asphalt as an option for several reasons. Number one, maintenance requirements over time, and number two, some of the trail grants require asphalt. We wanted to make sure that that was an option, but we would not be putting asphalt through the wetlands.
So I think I heard you state that there's 700,000 put aside out of TID 7. And that would cover 3 miles of a trail. So you're just talking about using that money for a part of the trail, the Golden Dale Trail that is supposed to be going through this whole area?
Actually, I said $700,000 would not cover the entire 3 miles. $700,000 was an estimate that was prepared, I believe it was 2 years ago, that was based on the cost for a trail to traverse this particular parcel. In order to complete the entire amount, we would need to get some additional resources, and that's where I think the grant applications would be a significant component to that.
So the $700,000 would just cover this traverse,
This parcel, yes.
this parcel.
Yeah. And that,
So-
again, that was.
So just one trail going through.
That was a conceptual estimate that was 2 years ago. So that's what it was based on. But it would be a start. The $700,000 would be a start. And it's important to have that as a match for other grant programs that are out there for trails.
So we're having, please clarify, if the Golden Dale Trail is supposed to go parallel to whatever this is, railroad, or does the 700,000 include paths going meandering through?
It could include some walking paths. That $700,000 is for trails. And that if there would be next steps, this is not a final, this is not the last time that the village board or the Parks and Rec Commission would be considering this. If this land transfer takes place, the next step would be to develop a more complete plan. What you have in front of you is a conceptual plan. And the Parks and Rec Commission would take a look at what they would like to do with that parcel. And if they would like to include walking trails, nature trails, if they would like to focus the entire dollar amount on the recreational trails, those would be decisions that would be going through the Parks and Rec Commission and then coming to the village board for final approval.
When this came before the parks, I believe it was Parks, they showed this map. Grafe came in and did a presentation. It was very nice. And they show the point of access off a road that does not even exist. And so the question remains, what is the cost of the road just to get there? Or could there be a different point of access for a parking or some other thing?
Well, as far as the cost of the road, that's item B tonight, that's one of the items that staff is recommending that we take a look at. It would not be possible to have vehicle access to this parcel without that road being constructed. They're technically, because the grants require that these parcels are accessible by the public, the state grants that MMSD used to purchase them, there technically is access directly from Holy Hill, but it's It's access that really would not be for the faint of heart and would not be suitable for use as a trailhead or a piece of property that the general public would be accessing.
Well, that was my next question. Why wouldn't Holy Hill work?
Too wet.
Too wet and too steep. Too narrow.
Wetlands there.
Mhm.
This is a very steep embankment to get up to the road.
Okay, but we were talking about coming in from the east perhaps. So in the meeting it came up. I'm just saying. So I'm very torn. And you're saying that the MMSD is going to meet on Wednesday. And do they need our approval for this to just even talk about it when you've already brought it forward to them?
They can act on this, and I don't know for sure if their meeting is on Wednesday. I believe they're meeting this week. I didn't check the calendar to see what day they're meeting. But they can act on this regardless of what action the village board takes. However, the transfer doesn't take place unless both parties agree to it.
Right. So wouldn't we want them to agree to this before we sign off on it and get more understanding about what the true cost is? Because it sounds like it's going to be a lot more than 700,000 to sustain it.
The true cost of the land transfer is zero.
No, maintenance.
Well, and I think, I think the board adopted a recreational trail plan that includes this segment.
Right.
Okay, and in order to move forward with it, we need to own the land that the trail would go through. So the true cost of the land transfer is $0. The board still has to make a decision of what kind of trail do you want, or do you want a trail? It could be possible that we acquire this land and we decide it's not the best place for a recreational trail, but it'd be a really nice spot to have some nature trails that people could access and do some hiking or walk their dogs or things like that. So those are still decisions that the board has to make. I think it would probably, typically what municipalities do is they won't spend a lot of money on developing detailed plans for land that they don't own. So I think if it is something that, there's wetlands, it's a large parcel with the location that the village board would like to utilize for one of these purposes, I would recommend that you go ahead with the transfer, and then we develop the detailed plans and determine, after we do some soil testing, get more survey work done out there, and can get solid numbers on what the costs are to construct. We can get an understanding of what grants are available or not available. Then the village board can make decisions exactly what is it that you want out there. I would not recommend going forward and spending the money on doing all of that without owning the land.
I make a motion to approve new business item A.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve new business item A, which is a Village of Germantown ownership transfer of 51.6 acres from the Metropolitan Sewer District for trail system and open space conservation. Is there any discussion on that motion to approve? Somebody had their hand up before. Oh, okay. Trustee Baum.
Can you confirm that the 3.5 miles is from where to where? Is it from the trailhead at this new potential road all the way into town, or it's not just the length of this parcel, is it?
No, it is not just the length of the parcel, and I've got to check the diagram here.
I couldn't find a measurement on there. That's why I'm asking.
Whole circle around Fond du Lac.
Yeah, and I guess I ask you not to quote me on the 3 miles. It might not be exactly 3 miles, but that longer distance, it goes all the way down to Maple.
Maple.
Yeah.
All the way down here. Yeah. So there's your
MMSD has also acquired a property north of the railroad tracks on Maple, and that we've had some conversations about it. The village board level as well that could potentially be a part of this trail system. And potentially even have another trailhead down at that location.
Yeah, I was simply trying to clarify because there was confusion as to we're only getting this little bit of trail. No, the trail goes all the way to Maple from this head point. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to approve? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed, motion carries. Next item under new business is item B, proposed infrastructure improvement projects around Green Bay Packaging, Truck Country, and TIDS 7 and 8. Give us more information, background on this new business item. Once again, we'll turn the meeting over to the Village Administrator, Steve Krecklow. Steve.
So there's been some questions about this in public comment as well. I'll try to address those as we go through the information here this evening. Assuming I can
work the button.
Work this. No, there we go. So I'll give you a brief overview to start out with. Richfield Sewer and Water Extension work and Truck Country Development are going to be funding several million dollars worth of infrastructure improvements in the Holy Hill and Freistadt area. And I'll go through a map here shortly to talk about which parts of this they're going to be paying for and constructing. With some of the projects that they're working on, and I'll use as an example Rockfield Road. And I'll talk more about the details of Rockfield Road in a minute. But there are some examples where they are constructing, or going to be reconstructing half of Rockfield Road from Gateway Crossing. For those of you who might be in the area, not familiar with the name of the road, but where the new water tower is going up to the west to the highway. The Village of Richfield is going to be installing a water line down that road and then paying for the reconstruction of that road. One of the things there's a couple of things that may make sense for the village to do during that construction. Instead of ripping up that road later, we could put sewer in along with the water line. Richfield is not putting sewer in because sewer is not going to connect to Richfield via that route. So we may want to put sewer under that road at the same time that water is going under to avoid having to tear up the road, shortly after it's been reconstructed. In addition, the Village of Richfield isn't paying to reconstruct Rockfield Road from Gateway Crossing east to Goldendale. There was some temporary, a few inches of asphalt that was put on that road a few years ago, but that was a temporary fix that is not intended to last for any lengthy period of time. So that's the type of thing we're looking at is, does it make sense? And the question before the village board tonight is, does it make sense that while we're constructing part of Rockfield Road, that we reconstruct all of Rockfield Road, even though a portion of it would be at village expense? And I'd also point out that for Rockfield Road in particular, as well as some of the other recommended projects, these are projects, Rockfield Road needs to be repaved. It is probably, I'm gonna look at my DPW director back there, it may very well be the worst road in the village. And it needs to be repaved. So this is work that needs to get done, whether there was a Richfield sewer and water work going on or not, and whether we use TID funding or not. That is a road that needs to be reconstructed. Just talking about our process here. If you go back to that slide, there's a couple of other key points. We did go to the cost estimates that we're looking at here were prepared by R.A. Smith and put together, and we did ask Ehlers to plug these numbers into their cash flow models to determine what the feasibility of the tax increment districts 7 and 8 paying for the recommended projects. I'll also very quickly say that, we went that direction. That was an item that was discussed with the village board several months ago, going forward and completing that analysis. It's not the only option that the village board has. These projects that are being recommended don't have to be paid for by tax increment districts. We could issue general obligation debt, and the debt service would be paid for out of the property tax levy. That is an option that the village board has. For the utility projects could be paid for, we could issue debt to fund the utility projects, and they could be paid for out of water and sewer rates. But again, on the water and sewer rates, this debt is not built into the rates at the current time, so those could have impact on rates. We're recommending 3 projects for a total of $6,870,000 with the use of TID funds for those projects. So the recommended projects, and actually one of these, after some further analysis, dropped off. Rockfield Road improvements we're recommending, the High Point Pass frontage road from Holy Hill Road down to the railroad tracks we're recommending, and then some Freistadt Road improvements we're recommending. We have looked at some lift station capacity enhancements, but after further review, it doesn't look like those enhancements will be necessary. So we're removing those from our recommendations. Oh. Am I pushing the wrong button? All right, there we go. So Rockfield Road, as I mentioned earlier, Richfield is paying for water main and road improvements from Gateway Crossing to Interstate 41, and that's going to be at a cost to them of $2,150,000. There's no village contribution towards that. That is 100% Richfield cost. There are some other components to this that staff is recommending. One is the construction of sewer from Gateway Crossing west to Interstate 41. That would be at a cost of approximately $1,050,000. And again, the rationale for that is we're putting water in, which means that it's likely at some point sewer will go in as well. And before a new road is constructed, to get that sewer under the ground and avoid additional cost and damage to the road in the future. The other 3 dot points here are extending sewer from Gateway Crossing east to Goldendale at cost of $880,000. Extending water east from Gateway Crossing to Goldendale at a cost of $540,000. And then reconstructing a Rockfield Road from Gateway Crossing to Goldendale at a cost of $1,380,000. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the asphalt that's in that vicinity now was not a permanent solution. It was a patch that was put in several years ago and is not expected to have a full useful life. Next is High Point Pass frontage road, and this is currently, if you can visualize where Holy Hill Storage is, and there's a private road that goes south from Holy Hill Road into the storage facility. As the board is aware, there is a proposal from Truck Country to construct a new facility on the current marine storage site. They need access to that site in order to make that development occur. And they've been having conversations with Holy Hill Storage about how to make that access occur. And there are really 2 options available. One, they could make improvements to a private road that would not allow public access, or they can work with the village to construct a public road. One of the reasons that the village may want this to be a public road is that this is one of the only locations in that part of the village where we would have a good opportunity to obtain another railroad crossing. There's currently a private railroad crossing at that location, and with the board's approval, we have started the process of going through the Department of Transportation, the Office of Commissioner of Railroad, to gain that railroad crossing. And in addition, as we talked about earlier, that public roadway would be necessary in order to provide access to the Goldendale trailhead. The estimated cost for the road, that segment of road, would be $540,000. And then the final area of recommendation is Freistadt Road. The village of Richfield is paying for sewer, water, and road improvements from High Point Pass, which is a point, a kind of midway between Goldendale Road and the highway. And they're paying for that half of it going west to the highway at a total cost of $1,730,000. And what staff is recommending, for reasons very similar to the Rockfield Road improvements, is sewer from High Point Pass to Interstate 41 going west. I'm sorry, let me back up. I think I misstated. Richfield is paying to go from High Point Pass, so the midpoint, to Goldendale Road. I think I said to the highway, and that I misstated that. They are going east to Goldendale Road, where sewer and water will connect to village utilities. We're recommending that the village, at the time that happens, construct sewer going west to the highway at a cost of $600,000, water going west to the highway, $370,000, and reconstructing the road at a cost of $970,000. There were several non-recommended projects. We looked at capacity enhancements to the Rockfield Road lift station, which I discussed. We looked at the construction of High Point Pass Road from Rockfield Road to Holy Hill Road. We looked at the construction of a detention pond. We looked at construction of High Point Pass, a frontage road going north from Freistadt Road up to the railroad. And we looked at extension of utilities on Freistadt Road across Interstate 41. I just want to clarify, there was a mention of a number, $26 million. I'm not sure exactly how that was calculated. The only way that I can come to it is if I take all of the money that Richfield is spending for the project, all of the projects that are recommended for approvals, and all of the projects that we're not recommending for approval, you get close to $26 million. But it's not $26 million. That's an incorrect number. So funding that, and I included in the packets the analysis that was completed by Ehlers that looked at the model and the cash flows. If these were funded using TID 7 and TID 8, it would extend the closure. TID 7 would be extended from 2033, which is the most recently estimated closure date, to 2036. And closure of TID 8 would be extended from 2029, that should say, to 2031. So again, other possible funding sources, you could fund this with levy-supported general obligation debt that would impact property tax bills, or we could fund the projects with revenue bonds for water and sewer utility work, but again, that would impact the utility bills. So if there's a village board approval tonight, then the next step would be to start the joint review board approval process. And that would take a few months with public notices, convening the joint review board and getting approval. And then once that was completed, the village board would get another look at this when contracts for each one of the specific projects were developed. They would come back to the Public Works and Highway Committee as well as the village board for approval. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Ball.
Can you go back to the slide on the TIFs closing out early?
Yes.
Late. TIF 7, please confirm that is the Speaker Corporation?
That is Speaker, and it goes to the south side of Holy Hill Road.
Okay, and TID 8 is the Holy Hill Business Park, Gateway Business Park.
Correct, to the north of Holy Hill Road.
All right, my understanding was these were closing out early.
These are scheduled to close out very early. The statutory closure date for TID 8, I believe, is 2038. And the mandatory closure date for TID 7, I believe, is 2037. So they would still be closing early, just not quite as early as projected most recently.
And from the original projected date to the current closing date of TID 8, we are closing at how much earlier today without this stuff being added?
I should know that. That's a great question. I should know that, but But 20, for TID 8 in particular, 2031 is significantly earlier than was originally projected.
You said
What is
2038.
significant in your world? 1 year, 2 year, 5 year?
I think we're talking about at least 5 or 6 years.
So even doing this, we're still shutting down TID 8 5 or 6 years earlier. Okay. And TID 7, we're closing that one down with doing this how much earlier, or is that one?
That would still be closing TID 7 earlier than mandated. I think 2036 is, again, I have to go back and check the original project plan, is probably about on target with the original projected closure.
So by adding this, we're back on the target.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have for right now.
Trustee Warren?
So Steve, in regards to this, so we have to tap, if we go this route, we have to tap into both TIDs. It's not one, we couldn't just tap into TID 7 and leave TID 8 alone. Does it have to be both of them if we go this route?
That is an option. It would be possible to put this all into one of the tax increment districts. And it ran several different scenarios with those options with Ehlers. I would clarify, I don't believe TID 7 could bear the entire cost. You could put the entire cost on TID 8, but I think I would recommend this because it minimizes the impacts to both of the TIDs and keeps them, closing, both of them closing at the, again, far earlier than statutorily required. And in the case of TID 8, far earlier than originally projected.
So it minimizes the risk of both of them if you tap into both of them?
Then you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. And the other thing I'll kind of point out, I guess, as we talk about the TIDs and for the public, when the board asked staff to look into this, one of the reasons was that the board wanted to avoid, number one, avoid creating new TIDs to pay for infrastructure. And number two, you did not want to amend the areas. What a lot of communities would do in these cases is you could amend the areas of the TIDs to incorporate, for example, where Truck Country is located. And that would keep, the TID would probably stay on about schedule. But the board wanted to make sure that when there's new development in that area, it didn't go to the TID tax base, it went to the general tax base. So it's another reason for this particular approach is so that when Green Bay Packaging goes in, when Truck Country goes in, and whatever the next projects may be in the Freistadt district and the Holy Hill district, the value of those new developments are going to go directly to the property tax base. And the school district and the other taxing jurisdictions will see the benefit of those new developments right away instead of having to wait for the closure of the TIDs.
Trustee Chan Miller?
I thought that when Truck Country came into their presentation, as you stated, they were working with the storage place and sharing this driveway, which is really called B Street. I don't think it's been named yet. Anyway, what happened with those talks? Because when Green Bay Packaging came in, you explained that both those parcels were going to be separate, and the companies were, I know that, but they're mirror images, north and south, and they're two parcels that are buildable that are not attached to TIDs. And if those companies wanted to build on there, that would give us tax dollars immediately and not be tied up in a TID. Wasn't that the conversation?
If I could just ask
Yes.
clarification, are you talking about Truck Country or Green Bay Packaging?
Both. They both came on one of the meetings about the same time or back to back.
Well, well, let me talk first about Truck Country and then I'll address Green Bay Packaging. You know, Truck Country has been having conversations with Holy Hill Storage about acquiring the land that, as you stated, what currently is, it's B Street. It's not really a street. To dedicate to the village for right of way for a road. If the village doesn't construct a road, then I think their fallback would be to negotiate an agreement with Holy Hill Storage for a private driveway there that would provide access both to Truck Country and to Holy Hill Storage. Regarding Green Bay Packaging, there were conversations about a frontage road going through the Green Bay Packaging site. However, staff is not recommending that frontage road for several reasons. Part of it is the cost. It is a very expensive, it would be a very expensive proposition. It was on that list of non-recommended. And although that frontage road was included in the 2050 plan, I think the 2050 plan anticipated that there would be multiple developments in between Holy Hill and Rockfield. And with Green Bay Packaging acquiring the entire parcel in that area, it probably is not a good investment for the village to construct that frontage road. But it is on the list, and that is a prerogative of the village board that, you know, if that's an item that you would like staff to go back and revisit to consider constructing that frontage road, you know, that is something we can do.
And no, that's not what I'm talking about. So what came back from Green Bay Packaging was they decided to build their own road. And so it's going to be basically, I'm calling it self-contained. We're not using an access except the one that is already there that goes to the gas station. And I think that Truck Country should really work with the Holy Hill storage units and create their own road if they want to get this started quickly. But what I don't see on any of these slides is the actual finished route of, or approved route or proposed route of the sewer and water. We got 15 colors on this one sheet. I'm looking at this thing. This one. It actually gives you, I don't think this was in the packet, not this one, but you got the Rockfield Road up here. But if the sewer is going to go on that blue line, then does it go all the way down to the pink and then to the orange?
And unfortunately, when I copied this into the presentation, it lost some of the formatting. But I think the village attorney kind of here is going to trace the route, and it would start up at where Rockfield Road is, and that's where we would cross the freeway.
It is.
Provide service
Okay.
to Richfield, and then go south along the freeway down towards Holy Hill Road, and then continue south through the Truck Country development.
Mm-hmm.
Take a little jog over to the east to the railroad crossing, and then south into the Freistadt district, going east around the wetlands, and then going south again down to Freistadt. And then at Freistadt, it goes east to connect over to Goldendale. Right now, village sewer and water terminate at the intersection of Goldendale and Freistadt.
So it's creating the loop?
And then there would be a loop that would connect from Holy Hill, from the Holy Hill water tower, all the way down to Freistadt.
Where is the water tower on this map? Yellow. Oh. So it's in pieces, the water tower. So Is the reason for finishing this rock field so that you can access the water tower? There's already a road there.
It's a bad road.
So
We have a lot of
it's a
bad
road
roads.
that needs to be repaved. And again, there were, when some of the work was done, on the water tower itself, actually the base of Rockfield Road going, from Goldendale to Gateway Crossing was, pretty much destroyed by the truck traffic. So we did put in a few inches of asphalt just so that it was continue to be passable, but it is not a permanent road or a permanent solution. So it is something that needs to be addressed, if not next year, this year or next year, within the next few years.
And then you said that our cost is not 26 million. If we do all these projects, what is it?
$6,870,000.
So the first page, what you were talking about on the first page, and you'd split that between the TIDs? That's your proposal?
Correct. Not 50-50, but that would be distributed between the two TIDs.
Why wouldn't we put it all in speaker?
Bury it.
That would be, the TID 7.
So
It would be too tight for TID 7. It doesn't have quite the cash flow to handle that. If you recall, a month or two ago, we did the annual reports for the tax
right,
increment district.
6, 7, and 8.
The annual cash flow for TID 7 is about $1 million a year. The annual cash flow for TID 8 is about $3.5 million a year. So TID 8 has more capacity to handle some of these additional costs than TID 7 does. And distance, the village attorney reminds me is, there is, these projects can be paid for, but it is, just better as a practice to try to associate them with the TIDs that are closer geographically. And we've tried to do that here as well.
And this funding, I don't remember it going through GGF.
This went to the Plan Commission and the Public Works and Highways Committee. Typically, items, at least since I've been here, go to one of the standing committees, and sometimes Plan Commission. But it is possible for them to go to more than one committee, but it's followed what I believe is a standard process by going to Public Works and Highways and the Plan Commission.
Because it's TID involved, not general fund involved.
But even though it's still in our bailiwick, I mean, we get reports on TID 6, 7, and 8. So that's my point.
That still doesn't make sense. It goes where it really needs to go is to the joint review board where it impacts all the taxing districts. That's where it's important because it is a direct correlation to each of those taxing districts. It went to Public Works because we're dealing with highways and infrastructure. It went to Planning Commission because it deals with development. And then it's going here for an approval, and then it goes to the joint review board. That is a normal process for a financing structure like this that is more TID based than general fund or property tax based. It's not on the property taxes, it's part of the TID.
This will impact the schools as well as MATC.
No, it will not. How?
How? You're not closing the TID at the same time that you.
Not closing it earlier than it was, so it's not closing
Right.
11 years early, it's closing 9 years early.
It's still different, right?
Okay.
Well, but that's ultimately why it goes to the Joint Review Board, because they have representatives on that body, and they also have a say as to whether or not they want to approve the amendment to the project plan that would result in pushing that out from 9 to 11 or whatever the case may be. So that's the process that's specified by statute. That the plan commission is the one who formulates the project plan, which they've done, or the amendment in this case. It comes to the village board, which is the next step under the statute, and then it goes to the joint review board for kind of final approval. And the school district and MATC both have representatives there and have an equal say as to whether or not they want to approve it or not.
Trustee Baum?
I just want a clarification on which projects we're doing. It's been so long since the yellow from Gateway Crossing to Goldendale, water, sewer, and road, that is in there. From Gateway Crossing, Rockfield Road from Gateway Crossing to the interstate, we're only putting the sewer in.
We're only paying for the sewer.
Only
We're
paying for
still
the
paying
sewer.
rest.
We are doing the road, which is replacing E Street, whatever it is, that from Holy Hill Road to the railroad track.
Correct.
We are paying for Freistadt Road, water and sewer from High Point Pass west to the interstate.
Correct.
Those are 4 things that we are doing. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had a cost of $6,870,000 that would then be split across the TIFs. Do we have a motion? Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve those 4 elements for the cost of $6,870,000 as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Yes.
trustee Nyrider,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
No.
trustee Hudson,
Nay.
trustee Jolene Pieper,
No.
trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
and trustee Kaminsky. Village President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item under new business is item C, discussion on public safety building needs assessment RFP. Give us more information on this item. Bring forth our Public Works Director.
Yeah, Matt Mortwitt, Public Works. So in your packet, you'll find a draft RFP that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. A little working group we've had with myself, with the village engineer, with Chief Snow and Chief Delane. And what we're trying to accomplish with this RFP is to get a consultant on board to do some basic needs analysis for potentially a new public safety facility. So we're just looking to answer some basic questions. What space do we have and how is it being used? Do we have enough space? And through the course of the study, they can determine how to allocate space based on the people we have, the people we expect to have with the result of some changes that are happening, and the equipment that we have. And then kind of last is an analysis of the proposed site for the facility, which is the current DPW location. That building is scheduled to be demoed here coming up in October of this year, and is a proposed location for the facility. So based on the space allocations that they come up with and looking at the logistics of that site itself, they can kind of make a determination of, do we need the new facility and is that a good location for the facility? I would say that there was a limited study that was done a couple of years ago by Zimmerman. And we felt that it was necessary to go back and take a look at this again because there's a lot that's changed since then. And some of those changes include, whatever the result of the referendum will be coming up here in a little bit. We've got the dispatch consolidation with Washington County, and then whatever plans there are in the police and fire departments for potential growth outside of the referendum. So that's a pretty substantial change, and I think it's worth taking another look at. So that's kind of how we came to this document. I'm not planning to go through it line by line, but if there's any questions about the approach here, we want to get your feedback. The plan would be to take any feedback that we get tonight, make some modifications to the document, and then get it out to a group of consultants to get proposals on, which we would bring back to you.
Trustee Nyrider.
Thank you. Matt, would it, and I just briefly read over the criteria that you had. Wouldn't it make sense to wait until the referendum occurs so that we know, what's going to happen as far as fire and police?
Well, it does say in there that they need to include the results of that in their analysis. I think either way, we want to look at the issue because there are space considerations right now, kind of regardless of the results of the referendum, that we want them to look at. And then in addition to that, there's plans in the departments for growth in positions as well outside of the referendum.
Okay, and maybe we have an early copy here, but it talks in here about their proposal being submitted by February 29th. I gather you want that later than that date, don't you?
Yeah, that'll change, obviously. That was just a working draft.
Okay.
So the plan would be to, take feedback again from tonight, update the document, get it out to consultants, and probably give them 3 weeks or so to work on a proposal, and then bring it back to the board with some recommendations, either in March or April.
So if we're going out 3 weeks, we're going towards.
April's more likely.
Yeah, so that way that, I still think it's good to have that referendum completed so that it gets into their minds a little bit more, and you're not that far away from it. This isn't something that I think that's got to be done by, today or tomorrow. It's been talked about, but I think there's time to do that. The other thing is the site. Let me go back, see if I can find it. I thought I circled it in here. It said the site for a new public safety facility is at the old Public Works site. Has that really been determined here? Or who determined that?
Well, that's just an idea on land that we currently own, and that will become available. This, I don't think there's any predetermination that we're going to shoehorn the building in there no matter what. But that's kind of what this study will be looking at is, we'll come up with kind of the footprint that's needed in terms of the facility and equipment storage and communications equipment, and determine if that works on that site in terms of just space available, in terms of logistics and other things.
Okay, are there any other sites that we would have that we could give them as an option as well?
I don't have any additional sites right now, no.
Okay.
There's a current site where it sits today.
If I could just interject, I think from previous discussions, we've been looking primarily at the Public Works facility. I think we could look at the current site. If the board would want to include this, looking at other land to potentially purchase in the village, that could be added to the scope, but that is an additional expense and, and an additional process to go through. If you recall what we went through to get the land for the DPW facility, it was an arduous, long, and expensive process.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hudson.
I like to think that I pay fairly close attention to the Public Safety Committee. Why wasn't
hope
this
so.
given to them?
I think just for timing purposes, we wanted to get feedback on the RFP from the full board. And, you know, initially the plan was just to draft this internally and send it out, but we wanted the feedback. If you felt it needed to go somewhere else, I think we'd be open to that as well.
We weren't asked, so it doesn't matter. But thank you for the answer.
You could make a motion to recommend it to go to public safety if that's how you feel. Trustee Jan Miller.
My understanding is the current old DPW site has some issues with the DNR. Is that right?
No.
No. What is the issue with the spill or whatever?
This issue was had a wash bay that went basically
yeah.
into a ditch and did not have sewer and water that was going to
Okay.
treat that.
And so it was pooling or whatever?
It was the DNR's recommendation that we manage that runoff better and not allow it to go where it was going currently.
So, but we were fined or cited for that, right?
We were recommended to change it or make a plan to how we would change it, which we did.
Okay.
And rather than run sewer and water up to that facility at a very high extreme cost, it was looked at of locating a new facility that incorporated more of the services under one, within one area.
And in regards to kind of the site plan and the grading, you know, what exists there now is not what would exist there, you know, if a new facility were constructed. In fact, it won't even exist after the building demolition. There's some site restoration that'll take place and the asphalt and the elevations will change coming in October.
What buildings are you leaving there?
Like the out storage buildings in the.
How many? There's 5. I think.
I believe the back 3, but I could be corrected on that.
Okay. I'm really, pro public safety, but I think I agree with Trustee Naira that I think it's a little in advance. Let's see how many people we are going to be filling and utilizing, and then go forward, because I don't think you can plan on giving somebody money to assess a situation if you're adding, I think the referendum is for 14 additional people. If you're going to do a public safety building, that's only those personnel that are on the referendum. So there's a big difference between the current personnel, even with the added personnel in 2024 versus, no one else added.
Yeah, I would say, and there's representatives from the police and fire department here, but there's current concern about, even regardless of the referendum, space considerations that we should consider. And this RFP also requests that they incorporate the results of the referendum. So it would only make sense, I agree, to make sure we know what that decision is before we request the study back. The only benefit to kind of getting things started and getting somebody on board is that this could help us inform like future budget making decisions. If we need to consider additional items for 2025, then getting this started earlier would be helpful. So it could be included as part of that process.
But I think we're talking about a month here, because you wouldn't be
Yeah.
starting I think it could be held off.
What's the completion date of this?
To be determined.
Okay, so we just set a date after.
Right.
Right. So I don't see where that's a problem.
No.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Well, I was going to echo, I guess, what our director said. We've known that we've needed to expand and improve, in particular, the police facility. I don't know quite as much about the fire department. We've known this for years. This again goes back to how we looked at public works for probably more than a decade before we finally approved a new public works building after the old one was falling apart, rusted out, in trouble with the DNR for having no wash basins for all the salt coming off those vehicles. No, we shouldn't wait that long. We should plan for the future. This is one baby step towards that planning, which we're going to need either way. We are going to need a different police and potentially police and fire facility combined. I personally don't think it has anything to do with the referendum. I think we need it, and I would move forward with it.
Trustee Rick Miller.
If we're just looking at the old Public Works location, we're gonna run into the same issue with water and sewer, right? Not issue, but there's gonna be some pretty heavy costs involved to get water and sewer there.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what concerns me about this location. I tend to think we need to look at other ones. Now, would this be an RFP to look at this and say, oh, the feasibility isn't great, and then we look for something else?
That's certainly a possibility. I mean, you could kind of look at it like there's going to be a cost to run the utilities to the current location. Absolutely. If we look at an alternate location, there's going to be a cost to acquire the land too. So how does that balance out? I don't know for sure, but that's a consideration.
Can you fit it all on this campus?
Or they look at keeping it where it is. I mean, and trying to expand it from the area that it's currently on. It's all part of the feasibility study of looking at all opportunities and all avenues of what is needed versus where you can put it.
Personally, I'd feel more comfortable with that, looking at the current campus and looking at that as an alternative and to see what's better for feasibility on that. I'd let others weigh in.
Trustee Warren?
First, I'd like to compliment the chief and the department for stretching out that existing facility as long as you have. I mean, half of that, it was the old library, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, we've made good use, kind of repurposed that to find the space, but from what I remember being in there, it seemed like things were pretty much cobbled together. I don't know if a new paint job's gonna help you too much in this situation. I share some of the same sentiments that the other trustees have. If we can afford the time to wait for this referendum, I'd prefer to do that. It's just one less variable. I mean, if we got the time, what's the difference? One less variable. Yeah, probably those additional 4 to 6 people, probably it's just part of the background accuracy. But I mean, if we got the time, I would prefer to do that. I'd like to look at additional sites. I mean, I hear it, Steve, you said it's costs a lot of money, but we could save a lot of money too if we do kind of find the correct site. I mean, we're talking millions here, so just my opinion. And then the last question for Matt is, do we have local consultants here that do these studies, or are we going to Chicago again, or?
No, we looked at a pretty extensive list of consultants, and there certainly are local firms. Now, some of them may have some national footprints, but they have local offices. So yeah, I mean, we've looked at a couple that we've had relationships in the past, like Zimmerman and Grafe. Both chiefs had recommended different firms, and we wanted to include those, SEH and FGM Architects. And then PRA, Plunkett Rasich, is a local firm that is known for this kind of study and construction, and I think they should be considered as well.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Can you elaborate on the taking down of the old DPW? Are there costs associated with that? I know it's not free, then you have to regrade it. And what cost are we looking at there?
Well,
That's it.
we don't
Not
know
really
yet.
Part of this RFP. I mean,
It will be if we decide to use that property.
no, no, I think that is a separate discussion, not really part of this
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, then, I think a new building is definitely warranted. There's no question. I've been in both. And, we have an excellent staff, public safety, time and time again, and we just saw all the awards. So I think we should be able to find something. I agree with, trustee Warren that, let's pause it for, the referendum result and then start the process. So for the date,
Pause it, question has come up, and it wasn't through, public safety. Are you looking to push it through, if you're gonna pause it, to bring it through public safety, or just pause it and bring it to the village board?
I'll make a motion to take it to public safety and just give those board members an update.
So bring
And
it to the next agenda of the public safety meeting?
yes, and then following that, come back to the village board.
Okay.
Please.
Second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Who's that, please?
that was, trustee Nyrider was second.
Thank you.
I have a motion to, delay, we'll say, and take it to the next public safety meeting in a second. Is there any further discussion on that motion to, postpone? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Two opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item D, the 2023 Germantown Community Library Report. Give us more information, background on this is our director of the library, Trish. Trish, the podium is yours.
All right, thank you. We're just gonna set this up real quick. Okay. Good to go? Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you. My name is Tricia Smith, and I'm the director of the Germantown Community Library. I'm just here to give a quick presentation on our 2023 annual report numbers. Just a reminder that the library serves more than just the village of Germantown, and we serve the town of Germantown and then also parts of village of Richfield, village of Jackson, and town of Jackson. So our service population is about 35,000. This is a year behind, so the number will be updated at the end of the annual report process in a couple of weeks. Last year, we checked out 365,000 items at the library. That includes both physical and digital items. This was a 7.1 increase from 2022. We had over 100,000 people visit the library, which equates to about 340 people per day that were open. This was also a big increase and one of our largest numbers to date. And we have 12,000 registered library cards. This is just a breakdown of our total circulation. So print is our highest by far. This continues to be our highest, 230,000. Audiovisual at 62,000 and digital at 60,000. Digital, as you'll see in the next couple slides, is one of those items that just keeps increasing more and more each year. And then we have 13,000 library things. So these are non-traditional items, craft kits, board games, puzzles, different things that essentially patrons can check out. This is just a breakdown of our physical circulation.
This equates very similar to our service population and is very similar to previous years. 64% Village of Germantown, and then our next highest is Village of Richfield at 18%. And then you can see the other communities as well. We do allow access at the library to any resident, so you will see some Waukesha County, Ozaki County, and a mix of other residents as well that do use our library for various reasons. These are our circulation trends. Obviously, we had a dip with COVID, but we're well making our way back up. The 365,000 is our highest total circulation to date. Physical circulation is a little bit lower than in 2011 when we saw kind of a dip. A lot of that was due to people using the libraries differently, technology, ebooks coming on board. You can see our digital circulation is a very steady growth. So we're definitely seeing that physical circulation go back up after that dip and then after we opened up after COVID in 2019. This is just a number that we have as part of our systems that run the number. $5.8 million is the total number of material that was checked out by patrons. So obviously not everybody is going to buy all the material, but this does kind of give a good number of the value of the library material that people are checking out. Here's some more numbers. Public computer logins and wireless logins, we are seeing those numbers pretty steady. We're not seeing them increase too much, more staying stable. We see a lot more people obviously having their own devices and having their own like free Wi-Fi, but we do see a lot of people on a daily basis using those public computers. A lot of times, not only just to get on the internet, but patrons that do not have printers at home, so they come to the library, may not need a printer on a regular basis or things like fax machines and things, but take advantage of the services that we have at the library. We had 41,000 service questions asked. This is a growth of 16% from 2022, and these are a combination of all the simple questions all the way to very long in-depth research type questions, genealogy questions, and a lot of tech help that we see on a daily basis. We had 25,000 people attend 715 programs last year. These include all of our in-person programs in the library, things like story time, book groups, craft programs, performers that we have. And it also includes our outreach programs, including monthly visits to our senior living facilities, local schools and daycares, and different community events as well. Our summer reading program continues to grow. We had 1,500 people participate in that program. 3 years ago, we brought that back in person. So we're very thankful to be doing that in person. And we see a lot of growth in those summer months, especially with kids that are off school, parents and caregivers making sure that their kids are reading and checking out books during those summer months. So that's usually June, July, and August is when we really see growth, especially in our children's programming and children's materials. A couple highlights from 2023, some new collections that we added were our Make It To Go Checkout Craft Kits. So these are crafts and activities that people can check out from the library and do at home. We added a adult puzzle and board game section that has been very popular, especially with our seniors, adult graphic novels, and also Me Readers and read-along books. These are things that we still have books on CDs, but we see the numbers going down. So the Me Readers and the read-along books are very similar to that, but the sound is integrated in the book, so it doesn't require a CD player or a device, which, as we all know, those devices are going away, especially in cars and things. So this is a way to keep kids reading and give them that sound as well as the books, and are very, very popular. I think pretty much all of these collections right now are funded by donations, primarily our Friends of the Library group. So we use our general operating budget to cover things like books and DVDs, and then some of our newer collections that are a little bit out of the scope of our funding, we use outside donations to cover all of those. So we're very thankful to our Friends group for donating so we can provide those items to our patrons. Couple more highlights. We added a foreign language database last year. Universal classes replaced our previous Gale courses through our system at a much cheaper price. So we're thankful to still be able to add those online classes to the public. Our mobile library, which we added our mobile trailer in 2022, and that was based on donations as well. We checked out over 10,000 items on our mobile trailer and additional facility visits throughout the year. So we were really happy to see that service grow and that people are able to use the library when we do things like park and rec visits where the kids are in childcare most of the summer and they can still get exposed to the library. And then a lot of our senior visits where they are at Gables, Fairway Knolls, places where they're not able to drive and come to the library. So we essentially bring the library to them. So all of those services are going very well and continuing to grow. We updated lighting and new lobby benches, and then we raised over $15,000 in private and corporate donors for our patio project and are hoping to make some progress on that this spring. And we completed over 1,300 volunteer hours through various projects at the library. This just shows kind of our breakdown of revenue. Similar to circulation and our population, we see 68% from the village of Germantown and then almost 30% from Washington County. That is money solely reimbursed through circulation numbers, items that patrons physically check out through to non-libraried Washington County residents. So that's usually about a third of our budget that we see each year. And then little less than 2% we get from donations and outside grants. Our expenditure side, similar to the Village of Germantown breakdown, we see about 65% of our expenditures each year for salary and benefits. So that's the majority of our budget used for that. We do include, this number is higher than the general library budget because we do include Department of Public Works costs in our annual report. By state statute, we have to include those costs. So that's why you'll see it a little bit higher. About 8.7% is materials, and then we see significant funding for building and ground utilities, and then all of our other services make up that other percent. Things like programming, materials, computer services, professional development, and then we do pay money to our system for our integrated library system, our software that we use, and then we also receive a number of services through our system as well, including daily delivery to and from other libraries. And then just a quick look at what we have coming up this year. We're working on expanding all of our collections. We were thankful to get a $20,000 donation from our friends again this year. So most of that funding is going to the collections and also to support our programming. Looking at seeing continued growth in materials, checkouts, programs, and services. And our big focus so far this year has been adjusting to our modified library hours and staffing levels. We did take about an hour away each day and an hour and a half on Saturdays. So what we're finding is that patrons are still using the library. Our numbers are pretty steady, but staff have a lot less time to check in all those books, put all those books away, and complete their tasks. So we're working through a lot of those things right now. We just had a staff meeting today and looked at ways we can try to remediate that for the time being. Things like bidding and volunteers, changing some of our procedures, and just trying to keep up with that volume that we're seeing. It's great that we're seeing that volume continue to increase, but with our limited hours and staffing levels, just having to make a lot of adjustments to all of those changes. Like I said, we're working on our children's patio fundraiser. We're hoping to see some progress with that in the spring. And then our big upgrades are through our Monarch system. We're going to be updating our catalog and calendar and newsletter. So we'll see those changes hopefully starting in April, continuing in through May, and then into the summer, hopefully being completed with those projects. That is all I have. Any questions?
Trustee Nyrider.
Tricia.
Yep.
Budget was trimmed a little bit. You've adapted. You really do a good job of advertising and promoting. I have a question though on a slide that was towards the start. It was the public computer logins.
Sure. Yes.
Just a question for you. Those two people there, is that true that's Dean and Steve playing hide and go seek in those lobbies?
I
on the
wasn't there that
weekends.
day, so not sure if I can confirm that one, but
It just looked kind of familiar, and I thought I saw him in there that one time when I was there.
yeah. I can't confirm who's in the costumes, but the dragon is actually Sherman, who is our mascot, and then I believe his name is Rory. He's from Rockfield Elementary, so he came to visit. So don't know who's in the costumes, but that's who those friends are. Right?
Other questions? Comments? Trustee Jan Miller?
Thank you for the presentation. And that was my question. Who's the raccoon? Because I know Sherman.
Yep.
But thank you to you and your staff and all the volunteers over at the library for making all the cuts palatable, and we too shall get through this. So looking forward to anything else you come up with. And thanks for the presentation. It's great to hear.
I think I echo most people on the board, or probably everyone on the board, for how lucky we are to have you as our director. You've been showing positive growth and enhancement to our library system every year since you've been here. And that includes in a very tough year of 2020, you were still making the library a very viable place for those that still wanted to use its services. So for that, I thank you, and for your hard work that you do every day and the services that you bring to the residents. I thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything for us?
Nope. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. All right, that then takes us to the last item under new business, which is new business item E, which is the Administrator 2024 Performance Goals Update. The Village Board may enter into closed session per Wisconsin Statutes 19.85 subsection 1, subparagraph C, for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performed evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. Board,
I'll make a
motion?
motion to go into closed session with only the village administrator.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to go into closed session? No discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
With only the village administrator, trustee Baum?
Correct.
I'm
Yes.
just reiterating that you said with only the village administrator.
And who was the second? Oh, Trustee Hudson. Got it.
Trustee Warren? Trustee Nyrider? Trustee Baum?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Hudson?
Aye.
Trustee Peeper here?
No,
You left.
Is she,
she advocated her seat. She had a migraine.
okay, trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky? And village president Wilter?
Aye. All right, we'll go into closed session in a couple minutes here. Before we adjourn, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all for watching, and have a good night. Please turn off your microphones.